What's up, everyone, and welcome to our next episode of Viking Vibes, the St. Joseph by the Sea High School experience, a podcast and web series dedicated to all things St. Joseph by the Sea High School. Today, we have a very special episode. We have with us for our alumni spotlight, Christian Adragna, Sea graduate class of 2020, current Villanova University senior, and also one of the founding members of first-generation investors at Villanova. We're excited to have you here, Christian. What's going on?
Thank you for having me.
So before we get into all the accomplishments and all the great stuff that you're doing, let's bring it back a little bit. Let's talk about the Christian Adragna origin story. Tell us about your youth, the way you got started, school you went to when you were growing up.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm from Tonneville originally. I'm one of three kids. I have an older brother and a younger sister. They all went to sea.
Like I say, all of them went to sea.
Yeah. I went to Our Lady Star of the Sea for grammar school, and then I went to sea for high school, and then I went to Villanova University for college.
Perfect. So shout out to Tottenville, of course. And for anyone who listening and watching doesn't recognize the name Adragna, everyone knows that Sal is one of the biggest advocates of St. Joe's. I think the guy bleeds blue, right?
Yeah,
and also outside of the world of St. Joe's, anyone who lives in Tottenville, if you just live anywhere near Tottenville, knows who your father is because he's like Mr. Tottenville himself.
He was the unofficial mayor for a few years.
Unofficial mayor. I know. Anytime you cross over Page Avenue, I used to have to salute. He told me. When I first moved in, he came, he gave me my Tottenville, Welcome to Tottenville t-shirt. When I moved in, it was like a big thing. Cut a ribbon, the whole thing.
That's funny.
But talk a little bit about the transition of coming out of Our Lady Star of the Sea and then going into St. Joe's. Was there anything affecting your decisions, and what was it like making that choice? Even though it was a long time ago, there had to be something that pulled you in and wanted you to go to
so
St.
the one thing that mainly pulled me in is obviously everyone in my family besides my mother is a sea graduate. So
that's all right. We still love your mother. Don't worry.
Of course. And but like that definitely played into the decision because like knowing sea alum growing up, that definitely helped like visualize what someone that goes to sea like turns out to be.
Right.
So for me, it was also Our Lady Star of the Sea was part of like I believe it was called like a prep program or something. Where
back in the day.
Yeah. So we had iPads in 7th and 8th grade, and I just like loved it. I thought it was like so much easier than just having like workbooks and notebooks, and plus like it gave you a little more like freedom to kind of do school your own way. Right. So I really liked that. That played into my decision, as well as like the open house. I remember specifically liking that. So those three things combined, like that led me to really like only wanting to go to sea, and then I ended up going to sea. So.
And you could say that the fact that your father said there was no other place you could go, right? Just be
no,
honest.
They gave me the option.
I know, I'm only kidding.
You know,
if you would have went anywhere else, he would have killed you, though. You know that.
Probably.
All right. So now you're in sea. So again, many years ago, but just look back on your experience at St. Joe's. What were some of the things you were involved with while you were at sea? What were some of the things that stand out till this day in your memory about, great things that happened at St. Joe's?
Of course. So I was involved in a few things. I was involved in the Holy Name Society. I was involved in the TV homeroom. My junior year, me and a couple of my friends, we started an investing club, which was just broadly, which was just very broadly finance oriented. We used to do like mock trading competitions. We would meet after school and just talk about like markets and stuff. And that was what really stood out to me because that was really where I got very interested in finance.
Right.
I had always like wanted to do something related to financial markets my whole life, but I didn't really become super interested in it until I was kind of like an upperclassman at sea.
Got it. So now, when you were there for Bloomberg, were you? Or you
I was
were
not.
You weren't there. That's right. So I remember because you came back to give a speech and a presentation to the current kids in Bloomberg, but you actually didn't get that.
Yeah, it was a little funny because like one of the things I was looking forward to about college is that like my university had like Bloomberg terminals that anyone could use, and I was like really looking forward to that because that's like a really cool tool to have like at your disposal. And of course, like the 1 year I leave, then once you're C, like you have access to it.
That's the year they got it.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about how St. Joe's prepared you to go into one of the most prestigious colleges and universities in the country, Villanova.
Yeah, so the one thing that C really helped prepare me with was course rigor. So the courses that you take at C mirror college courses in a few ways. Firstly is like the modality of it, and that the teacher gives you assignments that you like download from Canvas and do on your iPad, et cetera, as well as the tests.
So the stuff, I'm going to interrupt you because the stuff you're doing was stuff you were already doing in C. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Perfect. I wanted to hear that because we get a lot of people who say that that's the case, that what you were using in C is very similar, if not exactly the same as what you're using in college.
Yeah, it's exactly the same actually. Like I still use Notability, like we use Canvas.
That's awesome.
for our,
So you were like light years ahead.
A little bit too, especially because I had started in like 7th and 8th grade because I had it in grammar school.
So not to interrupt you, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
so continue.
So I would say like mainly the course rigor. Most of the courses you take at C are also like dual enrollment courses.
Right.
And independent of like a credit viewpoint, like because my school didn't take any, the one thing that really helped was that taking like AP courses and taking dual enrollment courses, those are kind of like much ahead of like your standard high school courses. So there were things that I got to in college that like I had already seen a million times over in high school.
Gotcha.
So
That's very cool.
That made things like calculus 1 like a lot easier.
So C obviously prepared you in ways of the rigor of the course and everything like you're saying. So talk about the day, and if I'm sure you remember because you're young. Talk about the day that you got the acceptance to Villanova? What's that like?
Yeah, so I was super excited because like that was kind of my dream school growing up. My older brother went there, and I kind of wanted to like not necessarily go to the same school as him, but I was very familiar with the school, and I knew that I wanted to go there.
Right.
So I applied to Villanova early decision. It was the only school I applied to.
It was the only school you applied to?
Yeah.
Wow, good for you.
Thank you. And well, I went like 1 for 1, I guess. So, but
I was gonna say that's.
But yeah, so it was a great day because like you open the portal and like I got the email and I was like, oh, like a portal update, and I'm sure like everyone can relate to the fact that like you get that and you kind of have that feeling in your chest that like it might not go well, but it could go well. Like let's see how it goes.
And it went well.
And it went well. Thank God.
Good for you. Thank God. So you're a senior now. You're big dog on campus. But talk about in the beginning getting acclimated and transitioning over to Villanova. What was some of the coursework and what was some of the stuff like that you were doing freshman, sophomore year?
Yeah, so I felt like it was very easy for me to make the jump from C to college in terms of courses. Like I didn't feel as though the coursework got any harder. I felt like it actually became like slightly easier because it was a little less like you didn't have it every day, right? So we had time in between like assignments, time in between tests, and it was a little bit more up to you. And I felt like that was really great for me. So I didn't really struggle in terms of that. The one I would say really hard part for say like an underclassman trying to get into finance specifically is that there are so many things that you need to do extracurriculars, right? So there are clubs that you need to join, and joining a club in college is a lot different than joining a club in high school.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so joining a club in college, there's like interview processes and like applications and stuff, a lot of which entail like a lot of work.
Right.
So it's the combination essentially of like finding out what you want to do as a career, then taking the steps to do that all while managing, like the normal course load that a student has.
I know we have something exciting to talk about, which is your starting of a chapter of a nonprofit, which we're going to get into. But talk about, I know you've also been involved in a lot of interesting internships and stuff like that. So,
of course.
So over the course of the last 4 years, talk about some of your experiences that you've had.
Yeah, so my freshman and sophomore year of college, I interned at a hedge fund doing trading. So the first year I worked with credit trading, which is just trading like the bonds of a company.
Right.
The second year I worked at the same hedge fund. This time it was more focused on derivatives trading.
Okay.
And then the third year I interned at a proprietary trading shop called Susquehanna that I interned in equity research, and now I'm returning next year to do equity option sales and trading at Susquehanna.
If there's anyone listening or watching that doesn't know the name Susquehanna, you better Google it because you must be living under a rock. So congratulations. Good for you.
Thank you.
I didn't even realize that. That's phenomenal. Good for you.
Good news.
Yeah, that's great news. All right. So now interning at all these major companies, learning hands-on all these things, dealing with the coursework of what is Villanova, which is one of the top universities in the country. You had time to start a nonprofit. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, sure. So my sophomore year, the freshman year summer, I had started the Villanova chapter of a nonprofit called First Generation Investors, and we worked with kids from Chapter 1 high schools, specifically in Philadelphia, because Villanova is a Philly school, pretty much teaching them the basics of both personal finance as well as markets and investing. So we would teach them what can you do right now that's going to kind of help you set yourself up financially for the rest of your life with the goal of building, say, generational wealth. Yeah. So you teach them about like stocks, bonds, markets, et cetera.
It's basically what should be in every high school classroom across the country.
I think 100%. I think it should be like
everywhere, but it's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
It isn't.
So, no one taught you how to balance a checkbook, right?
Nope.
Just it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
How to get credit, how to gain credit, how to do all these things.
Frankly, I don't know how to balance a checkbook, but I do know like
that's fine. You'll pay someone to do it for you.
Never written a check before.
Yeah, you'll never written a check before. That's great. You'll have someone who will handle that. Your accountant, your CPA, they'll take care of the finances. Don't worry about it. So I know that as part of what you do, because you are a Staten Islander, every time you come back, you always go and visit St. Joe's. So talk about some of the things you've done. I know you've gone and given presentations. You're here now on the podcast, but what are some of the other stuff you've done at St. Joe's to sort of go back and educate the kids?
Yeah, so I went back, I believe, the last 2 years to talk to the Business and Finance Institute. And all those kids are great. They ask great questions. I kind of give them a little bit about what we're doing right now, about like, I started at C and this is where I am now and kind of everything that happened in between. Right. So I'll talk to them about like, a little bit about like financial concepts. So like, what did I learn through my internships that I think like, to give you guys insight in would be like really cool, as well as if you want to work in this career, right? Like, what does it look like? So what are the different career paths and like, what do those entail? And if you have these skills, which one should you go into? And then I also talk about college internships. Like they ask a bunch of great questions, which are a little more.
Give them inside tips on stocks. No, you're not. No, let me know. Off record. You tell me where I could put my money. All right, let me know. Okay. So, right now, graduating. What does the future hold? So talk to me about what sector you're going to be involved in, what you think the next couple of years hold for you. I mean, you already said Susquehanna, right? So we're assuming, or is it already known that you're going to begin working there?
So I have a return offer next year. I start in August.
Congratulations. Of course you do.
Thank you.
So knowing that you're going there, what do the next couple of years look like in terms of what you're going to look to do and where you're going to look to grow?
Yeah, so I'm starting on the derivative sales and trading team. So I'll just be kind of interfacing with, say, hedge funds or real money managers on equity options. So I guess the goal is really to learn there, to go there and learn as much as possible. They have one of the better education programs on Wall Street, so I really just want to go there and learn everything there is to know. And then I guess after that, I'll figure out if I want to move. I really would like to stay with the company. I do love the company.
Right.
So obviously, I hope that I'm there for the rest of my life and have a good career there.
Nice. So managing partner. How does it work in a hedge fund? What are the titles?
It would be managing director.
Managing director. Right. Yeah. So you heard it here first. Managing director, Susquehanna. Right?
Hopefully.
Good. We got it. It's done. It's in the books. Don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. So looking back again, you've come so far, you've done so much. And this is a question that I'm going to ask, and it's going to sound like you're being boastful, but you're not. We need to talk about you.
Okay.
Most individuals at your age are not where you are. So talk a little bit about how everything that you've done throughout life has sort of set you up for success, including St. Joe's, but not just St. Joe's. In other words, it seems like you're light years ahead of your peers right now, and in a good way. So what were some of the things that, words of wisdom or tips or something that anybody watching or listening, maybe even current students, would say, sort of like how you got where you are?
Yeah, so I would guess my biggest piece of advice is like as you generally like as you take the next step, whatever it is in life, whether it be from going like grammar school to high school or high school to college or like college to like a job, generally it gets more competitive as you go up, right?
Yeah,
so
course.
Generally when you go from like grammar school to high school, like you have to make a high school, right? So you kind of sift out.
Can't just go to ninth grade.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to make, say, a school like C, which is getting more competitive every year, I'm sure. Right. And now from C, you have to make a college, and colleges are getting more competitive. Right. And then from college to get a great job, it also becomes more competitive.
Right.
So I guess my biggest word of wisdom is like you can never really take your foot off the gas. It always gets a little more competitive the next step up.
So you're mentioning, which is true, right? Very true, that as you grow in life and as you do new things in life, it gets more competitive the more you grow. So what are some of the things you've done to sort of remain ahead of the competition or make sure that you have that competitive advantage?
Yeah, so I would say like I guess the beginning of realizing that like it's going to get more competitive is the transition from high school to college. And I think for me I think C does a great job of like helping you understand early that college admissions is very hard, and obviously it's getting a lot harder year over year. I think C did a great job because even freshman year, sophomore year, they have you like doing research projects on specific universities. So I think C does a great job at preparing you for that. I think the SAT is like I think it's a very great tool because very rarely in life do you have the opportunity to just like take one test and essentially have kind of the outcome right away.
Right.
So I think obviously like it's a lot of pressure, but at the same time, like that's a great opportunity for students. And I think C does a great job at preparing students for that. And then I would say once you get to college, it changes a little bit in that it's a little more fluid, right? So when you're looking to go from high school to college, like you just need to know that you have to get a good GPA, you have to have a good SAT score, and you have to have good extracurriculars as well as a good essay, right? And that's essentially all you need to know. Whereas once you're in college, it becomes a little bit harder, right? Because you don't really know, like, first of all, what you want to do, right? You know if you want to become an investment banker.
I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up.
My dad says the same thing.
Yeah, I have no idea.
But it kind of becomes a little less like clear and a little less structured. So you need to be able to kind of like flow with that. And I think the best way I was able to deal with that was just kind of learning everything there is to know, right? So whether that entailed one big tool that I would recommend kids in high school do to kids in college or kids in college do to just like professionals is reach out to people that you like admire and just ask for advice, right? Be like, I'm right here and like, what do you think I should do right now? And I think you learn a lot more from them because they were in your shoes at one point.
That's a perfect segue to what I was just thinking about. And my question or my statement to you was going to be, your field is somewhat unique, and you could agree or disagree, maybe I'm wrong, but it's unique in that there's a lot of value placed on not only academics and you know where you graduate from,
right?
But there's a lot of value placed on social currency, right? So you just mentioned reaching out to people. So talk about the importance of, you know, whether you're a freshman in high school or whether you're a senior in college. Talk about the importance of, I don't want to say getting out of your comfort zone, but talk about networking, you know, networking with people, making sure that the social currency you have is good so that, you know, you can make that call and say, hey, or send that email out and say, you know, I have a question for you or something. So I feel like your industry more than most, it's very important. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I agree. And I think there's two reasons that it kind of works that way. And I would say first is that generally people like to hire people that they think they have things in common with.
Of course.
Right. So the one thing I've noticed kind of like being a student at Villanova and then like interviewing with people across banks is that there are a lot of people from schools that know Villanova, right? And they have like, I'm going to kind of relate it to college sports. So like specifically Villanova had like a great team or kind of had a great March Madness run from say like 2015 to 2019.
Right.
And there are a lot of people that work on Wall Street that were at schools that also had a great run. Right. So like perfect example for me is I was interviewing for a bank and the person I was interviewing with went to University of Michigan. And Villanova beat University of Michigan in 2018. So,
but you didn't say that right away.
Well, the first thing he said was, "Oh, Villanova, I remember when." And right away, like that's something really small, and like I guess you can kind of can't control that. But once you get in that interview,
That's the bond.
I already have something in common with him,
Right.
right?
That's
And it's
already
connected to a great, maybe not a great experience because like their team ended up losing,
Right.
but he still has a great memory to kind of tie to like a school like Villanova. So I think it exists like that. And then I think partially it also exists because generally in finance, you work a lot of hours and
Right.
you want to hire someone that you can sit next to for a large amount of hours.
That's true.
Yeah. Because if you don't really like them, you're not going to like them for 18 hours a day when you're
So
sitting next
are
to them.
you or are you not going to be showering in your office at Susquehanna? Is that the type of job you signed up for?
So Susquehanna, like they pride themselves on a more like tech oriented culture.
Okay.
So there's like ping pong tables and pool tables in the
Nice.
office, and I probably won't be working that much.
So it's not like when my guys and when my grade were going into investment banking and all that stuff, they were showering in the office, bringing in multiple pairs of pants. They never left.
The
They
times have
never
changed.
left. Yeah. Well, that's a good thing because you're not going to give up your whole life to just sleep in an office and shower in an office. So good for you.
I'd prefer not to.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to do that. So, looking back and being mindful of people who are watching or listening, if there's anyone who's watching right now or listening that might be a younger kid, might be
Right.
7th, 8th grader, what are some words of wisdom you would give to them as to what to think about? Because we don't want to be biased, right? We don't
Right,
want to.
of
We don't want to
course.
make the statement, "Why should we go to St. Joseph by the Sea?"
Of course.
But what should a kid in 8th grade be mindful of when making a decision for their future?
I would say the first things first is like, I would say even though the next step is high school, and obviously you should be very like career oriented and say what do I want my life to look like in the
Right.
next 5, 10, 20 years. I think it's important that you go to a high school that you feel as though you're gonna like enjoy yourself at, right? That
I'm
there are
glad
people-
someone said it. High school is fun. I remember it was fun, but no one ever says it's fun.
I think there's not much you can do before like senior year of high school or really until you're applying for college that's
Right.
going to materially affect your future. So I think you should primarily be focused kind of on like enjoying yourself and going to a school like with great opportunities, with great like extracurriculars, clubs, etc., as well as a school that will give you that platform that once you're a junior and senior and you say like, okay, like now I kind of want to lock in and I want to go to this school, this school, this school so I can go to this college. Then I think you also need to go to a school that offers that platform. And for me, I felt like that was C.
Right.
And that's why I ended up going there.
Good. Well, it seemed like it was the right decision.
I think so.
We have a unique opportunity with you that we can't always ask our guests because
Okay.
you have your brother and your sister. So
Yes.
so talk about what they're doing now and what you don't have to give me details, but what have they gone on to do? Because I know the whole Adragna family is doing big things. So just let's touch on them a little bit. What are they doing?
So my brother also went to Villanova University. He graduated as an engineer, but he's working in finance. He's an investment bank analyst at Kenner Fitzgerald.
Okay, so he's the guy taking showers in the office. No, I'm just kidding.
More so than me, but no. And then my sister is a sophomore at Bucknell.
Wow.
And
I forgot that. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's likely going to end up in finance, but obviously that's still undecided because she's still a sophomore.
Yeah.
She's still having fun.
She still has time. But either way, three graduates that are all going on to do big things, and it's cool. So, the joke that we make about your father that he bleeds blue for Vikings is, but there's something to be said about it because outside of all the extracurriculars, outside of everything that it's done for you, you're probably one of the best examples of what it means to be a part of the C family, right? Because
Thank you.
the alumni, the bonds, you come back. I know your brother's in conversations with Father Riley and with stuff, so he may not come back as much. But the point is that you're a part of a network that is now going to be something that C kids have already reached out to you, right, over the course of the last couple of years when you come in and talk to them. So you've become a resource, which is invaluable. So I think there's a lot to be said for that and for being a C alum. So Christian, earlier you mentioned that when you were at C, unfortunately they didn't have the Bloomberg terminals and the Institute for Finance powered by Bloomberg, but you said it was something you were looking forward to when you went to Villanova.
Right.
How do you think the kids now should look at and view the access that they have to those terminals?
So I think it's a tremendous learning opportunity because the one thing that Bloomberg provides you is you have so much information from like around the world, right? So everyone that works in a trading oriented role or even people that work in banking, anyone that works in finance, they use Bloomberg because of the information that it provides you, right? So not only do you have access to information, but you also have access to like tools, right? So you have like charting tools that you could use to like, I guess like map technical movements for stocks. You could look at company fundamentals. You can look at any company's balance sheet, income statement, et cetera. There's also like pricing tools. So what I work in, which is equity options, it's a little more math oriented, but you can still use the Bloomberg terminal to price options, which is like a more complex thing. And I wouldn't expect high school students to be
know
doing
how
that.
to do it, right.
But the idea is that you kind of have like limitless potential, right? So what I would do is I would emphasize, I think the Bloomberg certification is great because it teaches all of these
Well,
functions.
that's what I was going to ask you. So did you or were you required to get your certification?
For college, yes.
So
I took it the summer before I was going into college. So I took it once I graduated from
So it
SAIT.
was a prereq.
Yes.
Meaning now that the kids have access to it, they're already ahead.
Yes.
Good. That was the soundbite I wanted because I was curious. I really didn't know the answer. That's why I wanted to know.
It puts you ahead because I think anyone that ends up in a trading oriented role, like Bloomberg is going to become a large part of your like kind of workflow.
Right.
So the quicker you're like oriented with it, now that I've had like a few internships as well as I've done the market certification, I've kind of become very good at it. So that's going to help me next year when I start full time. I'm already kind of hitting the ground running.
You gave us words of wisdom for, young adults in 7th, 8th grade, what to think about when picking a high school. But let's talk about, current seniors or current juniors who are enrolled in St. Joe's or any high school for that matter. What do you think is very important for kids that are at that point in their life and in their career to think about when thinking about the next steps?
Of course. So I would say I would look for a college that's going to give you not only the best access to the program that you want. So let's say you want to go for like pre-med, or let's say you want to go for chemistry, right? You should always look for the school that has the best of those programs. And I think one thing that you should also look for is a school that gives you optionality, right? Because the unfortunate truth is that a lot of people go to school for a major and they end up not liking it, right? And that's natural. And I think it's a good thing to...
I did that too. Everybody does it.
And I think it's good to actually like own up to those feelings and be like, yeah, I don't really like this. I want to do something else. But I think what you should do is go to a school that offers you the opportunity to then switch majors, right? So I think you should always go to the best school that you can. And I would also go to the best school that's going to give you the most optionality, that if down the line you decide, I don't really like this, that you can switch. And from a finance perspective, obviously we talked about like social currency and networking. So obviously I'm going to talk about that because I'm finance oriented. But what I would say is for anyone that wants to go into finance from C, I would say try to go to a school with like the biggest, not necessarily name brands, but a school that people know, right? And that there's an alumni base that kind of wants to like reach down and pull you up to like work with them.
Part of the brotherhood, a sisterhood, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I would say always look for a school that has that kind of alumni base. And I think the one thing about C that, and I guess this kind of relates to the younger kids, is that C alumni are kind of like that. And obviously I don't have a benchmark for like other high schools in the area.
Not yet.
But I do know that generally C alum are willing to like go out of their way to kind of help another C alum. And I think that's a really great quality.
Agreed. So once again, Christian Adragna, class of 2020. Thank you for being here. Anyone who's watching or listening, we encourage you to subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. Definitely to learn more information, visit josephc.org. Go on the top tab, you click Viking Vibes. You can download and subscribe to all of these episodes. If you're watching this on some sort of social media, be sure to comment, like, and share the content. And until next time, Christian, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you next time.